This defendant, Randy George Nagel, has been to prison twice. That is available by searching the floor, whatever, drug possession, burglary, and other battery of LEO, nice, and standalone convictions. His misdemeanors are traffic shits, and you can search the court website here in Gainesville, blah, blah, blah. He's charged with 30 plus crimes, and why the validity of the compilation of charges. He was convicted of 6 charges, I believe, in Alachua County and county clerk of courts. You can go check all that out. Information, there will be more to follow. Judge Corlaw, this dude is the Cola, whatever, is the focus of my investigation. Imagine being threatened by he threatens this dude. Imagine being threatened by a prosecutor turned judge in a court where anything goes. I've been following the court and shadowing cases for 2 years. Even my attorney friends have shied away from me because repercussions can be huge for exposing topics like this. Tip: when you should communicate with the government, always do email for a record. La da da. All right, well, I'm glad I found this, and I'm glad you guys get to see this because this is a motherfucking crazy one. Oh my god, dude. What flies nowadays, you know? What you see me typing here on the left is all the stuff that Randy George Nagel said about his attorney and about why she should be fired from being his attorney, right? And this hearing is about the judge wants to hear that and then give her a chance to say her piece or whatever, you know what I mean? Right? So I wrote down all the stuff that he said, and it turns out she literally agrees and affirms everything that he says, dude. And here are the things that he said and the things that came out of his mouth and things he alleged, right? So I'm just going to read it to you, right? All the stuff he alleges. She failed to provide him full discovery. 1, he says there's more videos. 2, supposed videos of him crawling through a hole or footage of him trespassing on the school grounds where all this stuff was stolen, right? The co-defendants are being housed with him, so she could have easily talked to them. And later on, well, okay. And then the attorney did not get their statements to help him or to take his statement to not help them, right? So basically he was like, I'll rat on them. So you know what I mean. So I get a cheap deal or whatever. She didn't even budge on that. But then later, like now ish, they give her or they give the co-defendants a deal and to testify against him, right? Now, but she's cool with that, right? And then she did not give him a copy of the transcript so he can cross-reference them and make sure everything's true and blah, blah, blah. She makes him feel, he even said this, dude, this is like, you heard him, the guy who's been to prison before, right? He actually said he feels uncomfortable around her. He has no trust in her. These are his words. He does not want her to be his attorney. He calls it sabotage. He uses that word sabotage. It is in his best interest to go to trial without her. He said if his life depended on it, then he might as well just stick the fork in him, right? She couldn't timely get an interview of a dude named Adams by the 16th, right? And that was his only thing that he really needed for a suppression hearing because the dude was having a suppression hearing. Luckily, he didn't get granted. He's still in jail, whatever. And then she didn't even remember his name, Adams, which is literally like the first name ever, right? Like Adam, you know what I mean? It's at the beginning of the alphabetical order. It's the first person to ever be named in the world, I think, other than Jesus, right? And then she even thought that was that was the focus of the conversation, was talking to this guy, right? And then he even goes as far as to say that he feels he can do better at motions than she can, like a suppression or even a probable cause hearing, he thinks, right? So he says all these things to the judge, dude. Like all those words came out of his mouth, dude, one by one. And the reason I did that is because it cuts a lot off of this because there's a lot left, right? But now this is where the judge shows off the fact that he is an ex-prosecutor, because what he does is he repurposes every complaint this guy has, his actual complaints and allegations, repurposes it as an issue or a feeling, right? So he's like, so your issue was, and then rewords everything, right? And I warned everybody about that. And the second dirty part to that is to having you narrow it down specifically to one very specific thing, because you can attack one specific thing and strike that down, you know what I mean? But a broad allegation you can't explain away. we all know that's fucking, don't do that. You know what I'm saying? But again, a judge should not be doing that. That is a dirty attorney trick. You know what I'm saying? And a cop trick. Cops do the same thing. And now, before the judge makes his decision, she starts talking and affirms everything he said, right? She even apologizes for forgetting this dude Adams' name because he was not on her defense radar, right? And then I put, well, she details over 10 hours of counseling sessions, but can't recall a single name. Adams. It's 2025. Between handheld supercomputer recording devices and back-to-school supplies like paper and pencil being everywhere, and everywhere this lady decides to go, that she is relying on her failing memory, and this lady she's absolutely incompetent, right? And then she even later forgets the name again, right? And then at 29:44, she openly states that she broke attorney-client privilege by using the IT guy to send the footage or evidence to the officer interview that's alleging all the shit against him, and confesses and says that that's the reason that she has differences. She literally said on the record she has differences with him, right? Like, anyways, there's way more, but just know all that has already happened. And of course, you already know what's going to happen, right? With the judge, right? No, you don't. you have no clue what's about to happen. But anyways, and the judge does not, like, I mean, literally the second he said, like in the first 30 minutes when he said that he does not trust her and he does not want her to be his attorney, the judge should have just said, all right, you're done. You know what I mean? Anyhow, starting from there, actually scratch that. We're going to start from the threat.
But in this day and age, no one knows who it's coming from. I mean, you got stuff, this Blue Steel guy, Steve.
Hey, look, just like I'm not going to rely on law enforcement to make legal conclusions for me because they are not legal experts, you think I give a shit if this Blue Steel guy's advice you think is bad is going to fucking really make it bad? You are literally an unprofessional and have no expertise in giving people advice because you can't give legal advice from the bench, you moron. Besides, the fact that this Blue Steel guy, I don't know him either, but the fact that his name ends up in your mouth and you saying he's giving bad advice, it just means 100% he is giving wonderful advice, whoever he is. You retard.
Keeps popping up in my cases. I don't know if it's someone practicing law without a license that needs to be investigated by law enforcement and maybe go to jail themselves. I don't know. But someone ought to look into this guy because he's giving terrible, terrible advice to people that are...
That's terrible. What's wrong, Chuck? That's a terrible idea.
Are sitting in jail accused of serious crimes and facing serious consequences.
You know who else is sitting somewhere near a jail that is facing serious crimes and consequences? You, judge, right? You do the same thing he's doing, sitting there all day doing nothing, talking about cases or a case, right? You're doing the same thing, except when you do it publicly, it is enforceable and punishable by, well, okay, maybe not enforceable, you know what I mean? I mean, you are a sovereign citizen, but you know what I'm saying, right? Yeah, you're probably not going to get punished either. But the truth is, you sit around all day in the same jumpsuit he has on, just a black one, and talk to criminals and hang around with criminals, right? All day long, right? You're no better than this guy is at this moment in his life, right? I'm sure he's an actual better person than you in real life.
This guy was a travesty for Mr. Davis. He gave terrible advice to him.
But it was just terrible. I mean, ridiculous.
He damaged Mr. Davis's case. He damaged Mr. Davis's representation with counsel. And I fear he's now somehow found his way into your case, and he's damaging your relationship with your counsel. And I don't know who the guy is.
Literally, he just heard a bunch of testimony that the only thing damaging the counsel's case is the counsel.
I don't know how he gets involved in these things or what his role is.
Yep, he's definitely an ex-prosecutor. He's already told law enforcement to open an investigation into this guy for crimes, and he just says he doesn't even know what his angle is.
But it doesn't seem like his role is in the best interest of anybody accused.
You literally just checked the second box in the description for a good judge, right? He has no angle, he's neutral, and he gives no helpful advice, right? Those are the two things that characteristics that you should have, you fucking moron.
So I don't know whether he's financially benefiting from any of this stuff or not, but...
Yeah, because that's what people do when they want to financially benefit. They find people who are down on their luck, who are probably unlawfully stuck in a jail, and they send them emails and try to help them out, right? Because that's how people make money, you fucking retard. He's telling law enforcement to go search through your financials and look through public records to see if he can find anything on you financially. You know what I mean? He's opening an investigation from the bench right now into Blue Steel. The reason it seems so absolutely retarded is because nobody except prosecutors profit monetarily off people's pity every single day and disguise it as helping them, right? So that's why his mind immediately goes to, well, I don't know if he's profiting, off of it monetarily or blah, 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 blah. And even if he was, dude, it would still be fine because he's helping the dude, actual helping, not like officer safety, you know what I mean? I'm going to shoot you in the head for officer safety.
Probably law enforcement needs to go have a visit with this gentleman, have a discussion with him and find out what his aim is here. But he isn't helping you.
To your house. Well, hey, guess what, Judge? You know, my aim is to make you look as horrible as you actually are, right? And you can send cops to my house, right? And don't worry. I'm not going to make it hard for you to find, right? I live in Corpus Christi, Texas, right? You can send them to the Corpus Christi Naval Air Station, and good luck getting past those actual order followers, right? You think your order followers are bad? Wait till you meet some actual order followers, dude. You're not getting past that. Thank you, 9/11, right? You know what I'm saying? Anyways, carry on. Whoa. My bad. That statement is going to sound super insensitive and really, really bad if I don't put context behind it and explain why I say that. I don't think 9/11 was bad and horrible. I have to explain that. So before 9/11, it's when I was in high school, right? I was a skater, so I would skate everywhere, and I would skate on and off base. And it wasn't that tough. You had to have your military ID, right, and be recognized, right? And, basically just have your military ID, right? Then after 9/11, right, I was being chased by a cop. I was skating, right? You know what I mean? And so they knew who I was, so I crossed very easily. And it was a black lady, right? And she was younger than I was, which was weird because I was barely just out of high school or in high school. And she stopped the cop, right? And she was like, "Military ID, sir?" And he's like, "Ma'am," and she goes, "Sir," right? This was so great because 9/11, right? So being a law enforcement officer don't mean jack shit to national security, bro. if you don't have military ID and you don't have business on the base, you're turning around, right? So she was like, "Sir." She was like, "You need to turn around." And because there's 2 or 3 different turnarounds, and she goes, "Sir," because he kept trying to cut her off, right? And she got louder, and she was like, "Sir, if you don't turn around at the very next turnaround, there are 2 snipers with rifles pointed right at your head right now. And before I get the words national security and the word threat comes out of my mouth, those bullets are going to crisscross inside your skull. Are you going to turn around?" And the cop, dude, my mouth dropped, and then the cop goes, "Okay." And then I shit my pants and popped a boner at the same time. It was weird. Happy Veterans Day, everybody. All right, so that's a preview of this judge, right? He is an obvious piece of shit and a fucking retard as well, and a former prosecutor. So, I mean, again, it fits right in. You know what I mean? He had a choice in life, right? It was either to become a piece of shit, corrupt-ass judge because he's already held the position of piece of shit, corrupt-ass person being a prosecutor, right? So he had one of 2 choices. He could go the judge route, or he could go to defense attorney and start defending people with all his knowledge of the way the system is so corrupted, right? He decided to stick with being a corrupt piece of shit and further the corruption, right? And that's where people like us step in, you know what I mean? We call it out, and hopefully other people see it, and you know what I mean? Hopefully he loses his job, and hopefully somebody investigates him. I think somebody should open an investigation into this bald-headed fucking cue ball right here. Because I don't know if he's working with this defense attorney that this guy wants gone so badly to help keep her job so he can keep his job, so the prosecutor can convict this guy so he can further his career as a judge, because he obviously can't do it legally and correctly and by law, right? So an investigation should be opened federally into him about, I don't know, maybe rigging the fuck out of this case that shouldn't even be going to trial, when he absolutely 100% has it stuck in his head and actually says it out loud that it's going to go to trial because of him. Now, if that helps a career, convictions of, crimes help a judge's career, then that should be investigated, right? Right. I'm not an investigator.
Tim Smith on behalf of Mr. Noggle. And
Good
Mr.
morning.
Noggle has joined me at the podium.
Good morning, Mr. Noggle.
Good morning, sir.
If you raise your right hand for me, do you swear or affirm any testimony you give the court today will be the truth?
Yes.
Thank you. You may put your hand down. Mr. Noggle, you sent me a letter
Yes.
in writing outlining the things that you felt that were
Okay.
occurring in your case that made counsel ineffective.
Yes.
And it was part of your request for me to give you a different lawyer, correct?
Yes, please.
You still want me to go forward with that request?
100% yes.
Okay, so I want to make sure you understand a couple things. If I go forward with your request, I'm going to give Attorney Smith a fair opportunity to respond to your allegations.
Not a problem.
If her response requires her to share information with me that would otherwise be protected as attorney-client privilege, you're waiving that privilege in order to allow her to fairly respond. Do you under-
Absolutely.
Okay.
Remember his words, in order for her to respond, right? And this is going to be good. This is going to become way bigger than it seems right now, but waiving that right in order for her to respond to the allegations of her doing a bad job is reasonable. If that's all it is, in order for her to respond. Anything after that is attorney-client privilege, right? And should not be said out loud in open court on fucking Zoom, you know what I mean?
All right, so let me make sure. I'm going to summarize to you what you wrote to me,
Yes, sir.
just to make sure I have all of your issues.
Is there any way, can I get a copy of it? That way I can just follow it with you? When
A copy of what you sent me?
Yes.
I don't have a copy of it, but I'm good. I have it. It's not that
I just want
long.
to go along with it with you.
I'm going to roll through it here, so you
Okay.
tell me if you think I missed
And I'm
it.
sure that was on the wonderful advice of Mr. Blue Steel, right? Because if he's reading from a document, then you know what? Then Nagel needs to see it too, man. You know what I'm saying? And again, it's on record that he asked for it. So, I mean, that's obviously you're not going to, the judge is fucking a liar, you know what I mean? But again, I bet, and Blue Steel, I mean, if you ever see this, I mean, you can tell me if I'm right, but you probably told him or advised him of that, didn't you?
Thing. So you can always, once I cover this, if there's something else you think I've missed, add it
Yes, sir.
orally.
Okay.
All right? So your first thing was you said you believe counsel has failed to provide you with full discovery.
Yes.
So I just want to follow up with you about that. When you say full discovery, is there something specific that you are aware of that exists and you feel you haven't been provided?
Yes, I feel like there's more video. There's surveillance video that's on my arrest affidavit that they said that they were video surveillancing me.
Oh, this is going to become important later too, because he says it's in the arrest affidavit, right? The sworn affidavit says that there is video surveillance footage of him. So this does exist.
And I'll talk about my case. I don't mind. Me crawling through a hole, and then at the same time, on the same, pretty much the same sentence says that I was driving onto the property. Pretty much saying I was trespassing onto the property, I guess burglarizing the property or whatever. And I have yet to see that footage.
Okay.
Again, just on the whim, this is just on a whim that Blue Steel or somebody hears this that actually can talk to this guy. But also bring up the fact that, because see, burglary, the definition of burglary is just entering a property or a building with intent to commit a crime, right? So literally entering a property or being within that building, they have to be able to prove that you intended to commit a crime. Now, as I understand it, you were charged with taking scrap metal and taking it to the pawn shop, right? Well, they can't prove intent to commit a crime if your crime was recycling. Recycling is good for the environment, right? And taking it to a pawn shop, it makes a clear record of it being a legal transaction, right? And you know what I'm saying? So again, don't let them just hamstring you into the word burglary, because they have to prove that you intended to commit a specific crime. And if they have charged that specific crime as this scrapping, right, you are doing the world a favor by repurposing this metal and recycling it, right? You could almost be given an award for that, the same way they gave you a jail sentence. You know what I'm saying? So don't let them fuck you up on that either. I understand that the school was closed for 5 years, so you knew there wouldn't be a person in there to harm, so you were actually, you know, thinking of not committing a crime. And also, too, if that stuff really was there after 5 years, I mean, the way I understand it, though, is it was already gone, right? And they're just pinning it on you. But if it was, and you have to go that far as to say that, then you can also say that I was doing them a favor and the environment a favor. I was recycling this, and I thought I was doing them a favor by helping the demolition crew have less to do. I was saving them money. You know what I mean? So I was actually had a very good intended purpose. You know what I mean? I deserve qualified immunity because if a cop goes in there and does anything of the sort, you know what I mean, with a good intention, right? He gets immunity from the law, so why shouldn't I? Okay, that's pushing it too far. But seriously, it's not like you stole the shit and put, you know what I mean, sold it to somebody at a price, right? It's like the price of the metal, of the scrap metal, is already set, right? You didn't even set the price. You know what I'm saying? So how can you be, you know what I'm saying? How can it be criminal if somebody else has already set the price of reselling scrap metal and you knew that it was scrap when you went in there? You knew that, you know what I mean? If that's what happened, I don't think you did it at all. I think that shit was gone years before, and I think they just needed somebody to pin on, and you had a criminal history. That's what I think, but what I think doesn't matter. What I'm saying is you are in no way, in any shape or form, a burglar of any kind. You know what I mean? And pawn tickets are hardly proof of anything. If anything, it's proof of a legal transaction. The only reason that it's even deemed legal or evidence, in fact, here's another thing that I would like this guy to hear, Nagel, is that they're going to try to sever the two, right? And I know this because I saw the end of the hearing. And plus, it would make sense, right? Because they're not going to be able to explain the receipts as part of a burglary. But if you're separately charged with just having the pawn receipts and that's used as evidence in your burglary case, right, then the jury's going to put two and two together, right? They're not even going to have to, right? So what they're going to try to do is sever it, and then whether you get charged with the pawn tickets or not, they're going to make sure that's evidence in your burglary case if it goes that far. So just be aware of that. If you do a motion to suppress, forget suppressing the footage and trying to get out of there. Suppress the evidence of the pawn tickets, right? Because they are proof of nothing, and they will never be proof of anything unless you have a burglary case.
All right, that should have been from the beginning, to be honest with you. And
Anything else? So that specifically the video, I have that.
is that what we're talking about, the first thing at hand?
Just the
discovery.
very first
Yes,
prong.
right.
When you say full discovery,
I'm
that's
gonna
kind of
say-
broad.
Yeah, I'm going to say yes for now, and then whatever
Okay.
more you talk
The
about.
next thing you raised was, you said you noticed at one point in time at the jail that two of your co-defendants were being housed together.
Yes.
And you brought that to Attorney Smith's attention, but I'm not sure what your issue is with your counsel about them being housed together. 'Cause
Oh, I was just letting her know that at
Okay.
that time, like that, because I have a no contact order with all of them, but yet they actually came into my. Mr. Catello actually came into the trustee dorm with me, and he was in there for a couple of days, and he unfortunately didn't clean one day on the day off or whatever, and he got sent to the box. He's in the box right now, but my co-defendant was with me in there, and that being said,
The detective used a drug-impaired jailhouse informant.
Mr. Whitman
Remember I said he said that she makes him feel uncomfortable. Watch how she stares at him.
is taking a plea deal to testify against me and Mary Arnold under the pretense, I'm pretty sure that he thinks that since Eric Catello came over to my dorm, that me and him are conspiring against him, or I don't understand, like, the deal. Like, I asked you to testify against them 2 months ago, and she denied that. She said, no, that's not possible.
Get the full view of how weird this is, right? Because look at everybody else, what their demeanor kind of is, right? And then look at hers. It's really weird.
you asked to testify against them?
Yes.
Oh, gotcha.
And then and this man, now, she told me 2 days ago that this man is testifying against me. I know what he's getting now. He's getting a year in the county and 3 years paper to testify against me. And he has nothing to do with my case, but he's allowed to do that, and I wasn't allowed to do that 2 months prior. Okay.
Right.
And there's another thing.
She is laser focused on him, dude. It's like, it's beyond faking respect, you know, by turning her head toward the direction of the person that's talking. You know what I mean? It's beyond that. Like, it's
I'll talk
creepy.
about right now. Transcripts. I literally just got told a minute ago about transcripts. She depoted Detective Barnes and Chalet. Chalet was video court. That's another thing, too. Detective Barnes back in, I think, August, like 7th or 1st or whatever it was. I have yet to see those transcripts yet, because I know that she has not given. I gave her probably 3 or 4 sheets of paper with questions on them to ask him personally, to ask him from my knowledge of the case. And I'm pretty sure that never got done.
That's going to be a huge issue later, too. Well, I'm going to make it an issue, but they overlooked it, but it is an issue, right?
I still have yet to see the transcripts, so that way I can read them and cross-reference them my personal self, you know. And I feel like when me and her, like, there's no clashing together. There's no defense. I feel like from her. She makes me feel uncomfortable every time I'm in there, in the room with her.
You could tell it was uncomfortable for him to admit that. And just look at her. She is fucking eyeball fucking him, dude. And not the kind where it's like, you know, you take your clothes off and have sex. I mean, eyeball fucking him like, I am going to fuck your life up fucking him.
And I don't trust her at all. Like there's depositions supposed to be done today. I do not want her to do my depositions. I feel like I'm going to be sabotaged, and I'm going to lose trial on nothing because nothing has been done.
Okay, all right. So the next issue you raised was you feel like you're under duress to take a plea that's not in your best interest. And I'm not sure what you mean.
If I could give you some advice, Nagel, don't ever let a judge repurpose what you said or categorize what you said. If he does, then re-say it again. Don't let his categorization of your words be the thing on record, because there's a reason that he's restructuring your sentences and your thoughts to be that way. It's so he can either manipulate his way around it or use it against you or have somebody else. You know what I mean? None of the purposes of him restructuring your words or thoughts are in your best interest.
Specifically by duress.
I'm saying I'm basically stressed out about it. That the simple fact is there was no defense whatsoever. It was just come with me with a 5-year plea deal, and I turned it down twice. And then when we came before you, I was like, you know what?
I thought you accepted it, but I rejected it.
I honestly didn't want to accept it, but you know, what am I going to do? I've been in prison twice, and I guess I have a lengthy record that you denied anyway and wanted to give me 10.
Boom, red flag number one. This judge denied a fucking open and shut 5-year deal because he wanted to give him 10. You know what I mean? This judge wants this trial to happen. You know what I'm saying? Probably for the best interest of his career, like we had talked about earlier, or like he talked about, you know what I mean? When he was saying that he wanted to, you know, fucking bootstrap this guy for the ceilings and fucking poke him with a stick until his fucking judgeship got, you know, some traction because he's a shitbag.
You know, and I can't take that. I'm going to go to trial. I mean, I feel like it's in my best interest to actually go to trial because this case is literally just, it's illusion. It's just smoke and mirrors, to be honest with you.
Okay, all right. And so the next issue, you said that you feel that your attorney has not taken the depots of Anthony Adams and David Blevins, and they're both in jail?
This is the best part about that, is that we were on the phone the other day, and she acted like she had no idea who Anthony Adams was. And I said, because she said there's 4 people that
So I'm clear. These are 2 names that you've given your attorney?
yes, who they are statements that are going to go against what Renfro and Barnes initially did when they did their preliminary walkthrough of the Terwilliger School that's been shut down for 5 years. He said that all this copper was taken out, everything was taken out, and I cut and removed everything out of the entire school. That's what they said on the arrest report. I have 2 people that are going to contest to that and just make statements. And
they're both at her fingertips. Or I'm sorry, at the judge's behest, at the court, they're in jail. It's not like she has to go looking for him, right? Because her excuse later is going to be, oh, people didn't call me back. Like, she literally left one message for each person he said on the outside, right? But literally, you don't have to do that in jail. You can just go visit them, right? In fact, she has a VIP to get these people in front of her, and she still didn't do it. And she couldn't even remember the dude's name. You know what I mean? And she admits to this, right? After he says this, brings it up, the judge hears it, and then she admits to it. It's still ignored.
she was supposed to have them.
And you believe their statements will be what?
100%. Oh, that the school's been shut down for 5 years. Multiple homeless people have been in and out of that place, and they have ransacked them. Everything that they said that I took was already taken.
Gotcha.
And I'm waiting for.
And these are they still in jail?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Now, keep in the back of your mind, he doesn't need to answer any of these questions because the prosecution are these two ladies right here. You know what I'm saying? They literally are hearing his entire defense, right? Now, the disclosure of the defense or the waiver of the right to have the attorney-client privilege was for her to answer to the things, you know what I mean, that he was saying that she was doing wrong, not to give his defense, right? But this judge keeps pushing it and questioning him like he's a lawyer because he is a slimy piece of shit. ex-lawyer. And I hope Blue Steel has something up his sleeve, because I'm just going to be coming with the bad news, is that he's actually not, this is not a defense. He's telling the truth, right? And the truth as a defense is the hardest one to get across, to get people to believe and to back up and to everything. And it's hard enough without the prosecution knowing the exact details of the truth of everything that's going to happen at trial. But guess what? These two sat here through this whole thing, dude. And there's another hour and 40 minutes on this, okay? So you can imagine this wordy, mouthy fucking judge, how much information he extracts from this dude, right? Fraudulently, under the color of his office, you know what I mean? Through slimy means, this dude's a fucking worm. You might as well call him Dennis Rodman.
Are they still in jail?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
I mean, unfortunately for them, thank God, because I explained to her September 3rd that this needed to be done. Anthony Adams, no matter what, needed to be done before September 16th or the 22nd, because his motion to suppress was going to be granted either that day or the next day or the following, whatever. And when it was actually granted, and he was going to get let out, but the state picked up a sworn complaint against him. So he's in there still right now. And then David Blevins is in B-dorm. He got moved out. He got in a fight with somebody in the trustee cell. But
So his co-defendant, literally the guy that's charged with the same thing that he's charged with, that's in jail with him, gets his motion to suppress granted, right? But this attorney that he's trying to get rid of right here says that the motion to suppress isn't even a fathomable thing, that she won't even bring in front of the court because she doesn't believe in it so badly.
I asked her to please have that done before the 16th. That way it was done, and it never got done.
Okay.
And then
Okay, so another allegation. She admits to this here in a little bit. You know what I mean? These are all, every one of these independently is a reason for her to be
she acted-
fired.
well, on the 2 days ago when she talked to me, she acted like she had no idea what I was talking about Anthony Adams. I said, I made it very clear to you how important that Anthony Adams was to me on that day, on the 16th. It needed to be done before the 16th. And she acknowledged that on the 3rd.
Okay, so your last thing you raise is you say that you feel like counsel has failed to file certain motions that you think are important to you and should be filed, but again, that's pretty vague and broad. Can you tell me specifically what motions you're referencing?
To me, I feel like I pretty much put basically 100% of this case, I put all the work into it myself. I feel as if that I can put a motion in to suppress my video evidence and I mean, to be honest with you, probable cause. But when I asked for if there was a possibility of the motion to suppress the video, she said absolutely not. They just flat out told me no. Like not even giving it a try, hey, let's do it anyway. She said, no, Cola's not going to accept that. Well, to me, you just came into this courtroom, so I don't even know how you really know Cola that well, but what's it going to hurt? I'm looking at a life sentence right now. What's it going to hurt? Maybe there's actual factual evidence that you would have taken into consideration, and I could be at the house right now.
Okay, all right, so anything else that we haven't covered? Does that pretty much cover the?
No, was that the letter from Blue Steel? Was that the letter that somebody sent an email to you? It was about 20, about
Wait a
her.
minute.
It was a lot
So
more.
the Blue Steel guy's involved in your case too?
Yes, sir.
Who is this Blue Steel guy that keeps writing me letters in defendants'
His
cases?
name's Sterling, and he's
Sterling, that's right, that is his name.
He's done a lot more for me than
How do you know Sterling?
I met him. I phone calls through other people.
From the jail?
Yes.
Okay, so,
and he-
yeah.
He met him through Mr. Davis, Christopher Davis.
Oh, okay,
Yeah.
all right,
Yes, I met him. Yeah, there you go.
yeah. He didn't, okay, we'll leave it there. All right, no, I don't have
He
an
helped me
email that I,
You don't have the.
well, let me see. Yeah,
Doesn't have the clerk
I
does.
sure did get an email from Blue Steel.
Yep.
Well, dip me in shit and roll me in breadcrumbs. I did get an email, but later on I'm going to pretend like I don't know about it.
I got your
Everything
letter.
on there is
Let
100% factual.
me look.
Please do. 'Cause he definitely. I'm not a professional. I'm not a lawyer. I don't know, how to word anything right properly. But everything that he said on there, we went over before. I have another.
Video that he's talking about in terms of what was given in the report, I believe was connected to a deer camera that did not exist by the time we started investigating the case. So the video that he's looking for, to my knowledge, does not exist.
Okay, but listen to the way the judge purposes this question and asks the attorneys if they have it, and the way the attorney answers and says, well, we gave the depositions, but he didn't have it. So they're answering the question of if they actually have this video in their possession, when really in the deposition, it was acknowledged that the video existed, right? That's all that he is trying to say, is that this video exists. You should go look for it, bitch. But instead, the judge knows this and repurposes the question, and they answer the question that he asks if they have it in their hands, even though she mentions the deposition. It's very slick and sly, right? But that's why you don't let them repurpose your words. That's all.
All right, so let me, State, do you have any evidence of a deer cam video?
Not in my possession, but we did the deposition of Detective Barnes, and I don't think he had it still.
He did not?
He did not.
Gotcha, okay, go ahead.
Yes, right. He did not have it, but he talked about it for like 5.5 hours. You know what I mean? You know what I'm saying? Like that's anyway. That's how they do it.
Just so you know, Mr. Nago, don't interrupt. Let your attorney have a full response.
And here's the thing. Nagel caught it. He's still right now trying to slide it in there and say, oh, no, but I was just saying that he mentioned that there is a video, right? But the judge won't let him say anything. It won't let him say it. He kind of squirms it out. He kind of gets it out.
Have a full response.
You're right.
Right, and then
I was just going to say about the surveillance video. That was all.
I'll give you
You see what I'm saying?
I'll give you a final chance, but don't interrupt and let your attorney go through and respond to your allegations.
Whoa, now he's calling them his allegations, right? When the judge literally repurposed every single question or every single thing that the Nagel brought up and made it his question, right? He was like, so what you're saying is blah, 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 blah. And now he's saying, okay, let him go over your allegations, right? So he's literally making the words for him, right? So when they read, anyway, you get what I'm saying, right? How they're doing this.
So I did personally take the time to go out and review video with Mr. Nagel. The most relevant video, in my estimation, was a video of a post-Miranda interview.
Even that's slick shit, the post Miranda. That just means it doesn't need any certifications or legalized whatever experts to testify on it. If you're on record telling somebody their Miranda rights, like, hey, you don't have to answer any of these questions, and then you answer questions, it's admissible in court regardless of what the fuck you say, anybody says, you know what I mean? So she's putting it out there that, yes, the ones that are relevant in my case, or in my mind, are the ones where he was absolutely 100% Mirandized by an officer of oath or whatever, you know what I mean? She's a bitch.
That he gave with Detective Barnes. That interview lasted, I believe, longer than 2 hours. I also had other video for him to review. I think that was maybe an 1.5 to 2 hour meeting with Mr. Nagel. We got through maybe about 20 minutes of the video, and he told me that he'd seen enough. And I asked if we needed to go through the additional videos, and he said no. My initial impressions of the strength or weakness of his case was based largely on the contents of that particular interview.
Yes, the very words of somebody who doesn't give a shit about her job and is lazy as fuck, right? Because what should be the things that you focused your energies on is the fact that he might be innocent, and possibly instead of finding ways to defend him, maybe find ways to find the truth and show a little bit of innocence, or at least non-criminality, you know what I'm saying? Instead of focusing on the only thing that can fucking damn him if you show it, present it properly, right?
So that was always a focal point of my discussions with him as we moved forward. I informed him from the very beginning that for all of my clients, my approach is to work 2 tracks simultaneously.
Let me speak their language for a minute. None of them reference the truth or have anything to do with an outcome of justice in this case, Your Honor. I do this, basically because I'm a lazy dumb bitch.
To discuss defenses and also to work on plea negotiations. So
She wants to discuss defenses. Can you ask her if she wants to discuss Degrassi Knoll too? I mean, what the fuck is that, dude? And plea negotiations? What the fuck is this, dude? This is not a defense attorney. This is not even an attorney. This is a prosecutor that's named herself defense attorney.
and that theory, that is exactly what I did. Now, for Mr. Nagel's case...
No, I'm cutting in a lot here, but let me explain the situation just real quick, an overview of what we just heard, right? This is a case about Mr. Nagel, right? Mr. Nagel just got done giving 13 facts of ways and reasons she's fucked up, which the judge repurposed every single one of them about Mr. Nagel, repeated them to Mr. Nagel. Mr. Nagel just got done talking. She stood up in the very beginning and said, I represent Mr. Nagel. Now it's her turn to talk about and defend herself about how she actually was defending Mr. Nagel. And she just got done saying all these fucking words, right? The attorney words. And then has the balls to say this statement. and in Mr. Noggle's case. Bitch, what the fuck were you talking about if your words weren't about Mr. Noggle? And now you're just getting to the subject of Mr. Noggle? You are fucking incompetent, all right? In fact, every single person that you see in this, all 12 of these people that are all doing stuff, are all there because of Mr. Noggle. Everybody knows this except you. Boot this bitch off the case.
He did, due to no one's fault, we did have to set the initial round of depositions quite far out due to the availability of all of the parties. Myself, at the time, it was ASA Holtz who was handling the case, as well as law enforcement officers, and Joseph Shalley. So there was a delay from the May 15th case management conference. We actually advanced that, I believe, to a July case management conference to accommodate those depositions. During that time, I was having some discussions with Mr. Noggle about which direction we wanted to move in. We were on the same page about some of the things that could potentially be defenses. I did not at that time believe that those defenses would outweigh the challenges that I expressed to him that we would face once going to trial. He did make reference to...
He did make reference. See, you got to watch out for that stuff. You know what I mean? Because look, lady, about 5 minutes ago, I did make poopy. You know what I'm saying?
Reference to information that I was supposed to, I believe he did, information that I was supposed to take down in terms of witnesses that may serve as defense witnesses.
So it's her belief, which means immediately that word just nullifies all responsibility in anything she's about to say. But it's her belief that he made reference to witnesses that she may have supposed to have done something with about. Could possibly serve in the trial, that is for sure, right?
And for that, I do owe him an apology. When we spoke on Saturday, I did not recall the name of Anthony Adams, and going back and reviewing my notes, that was a discussion where he gave me very specific names.
Yeah, you know what I mean? Specific names like Michael Jordan, Charles Barkley, you know what I'm saying? And, oh, wait, you want me to name the whole starting lineup or what?
It was Lisa Connolly, William Hahn, because we hadn't discussed him since the beginning of September. I tasked our...
You did have an opportunity to research the other names?
Yes.
And I see you did list recently William Hahn as a defense witness.
Correct, and I'd spoken with William Hahn very early in the case.
Oh, so you spoke with a guy, the very first guy you spoke with that you deemed already has nothing to provide to the table. You added him as a witness to the case, right? Fucking lady,
At that time,
come on,
based on my
dude.
discussions with Mr. Noggle, Williams Hahn's testimony would not be favorable for us or useful in a way that would be meaningful. After he renewed the defense witnesses, we'd gone through the back and forth about the pleas, whether they would be accepted, whether they would not be accepted. I tasked our investigators with getting in touch with the 4 witnesses that he did renew a request for. They only were able to get, and they left messages with all but one. They were able to get in touch with William Hahn.
Now she's got a team of investigators to make a single phone call. What the fuck happened to attorney-client privilege, dude? What does that extend to her investigators as well? I don't think fucking Noggle agreed to this, right? And then Noggle has to agree to all of this or dictate it to her.
William Hahn informed the investigator, hey, I've already spoken with the attorney. The attorney told me that, you know, nothing that I said would be of any value. So I personally called all of the witnesses. I had to leave messages with Douglas Hammond, and I recognize that though he has sent letters to the court, I cannot rely on letters to the court being substantive testimony that's going to be favorable for Mr. Noggle. I need to speak with him directly. I was able to get in touch with, again, William Hahn. He seems to be the one person who will pick up the phone. Spoke with William Hahn, shored up what he would provide, and I disclosed him as a witness. Left a message for Lisa Connolly, have not received a return phone call. And again, the Jeremy Blevins that we looked up, our investigators did it, I did it. That particular spelling of Jeremy Blevins, that person does not exist in the inmate lookup in the jail.
Oh, that makes sense then. Yeah, it's totally his fault. No, bitch, you don't need to use inmate lookup. You're not a fucking layperson, right? You can go to the jail and say, hey, look up this inmate, right? You don't need to go on a website and a portal that says inmate lookup, you know, like it's some title, right? You can actually go in there and have them look up a fucking inmate, you dumb hoe. Let me guess. You're going to say every single one of them. I'm just kidding. I'm not kidding. But hey, this is already 45 minutes long, and there's already another hour one that I'm going to have to make. So I'm going to cut this short. But don't you worry. Y'all know how I do it. I give receipts to every fucking thing and piece of shit that I talk, right? I'm just saving all these for one, because if I did this after every single time that I interrupt, it would be really annoying, right? But dude, every single thing that I interrupted on and said something about is literally her breaking in either an oath of or her job, or a canon of some sort, or some sort of ethics or actual law and statutes. Dude, she cannot speak a word without violating something that she is supposed to not be violating, right? And this judge is just a complete pile of shit. We all know that. I just want y'all to periodically hear the end of this and the next video, or if you watch it again, just periodically be looking at these prosecutors, right? They seem really interested, and they type things on their computers and whisper in each other's ear at the weirdest times. You know what I'm saying? Like right when there's some serious information that is being divulged in this courtroom.
And I spent an hour and a half on the phone with her just before our September 25th pretrial conference. That was based on a conversation that I had with Mr. Noggle that evening at the jail. He asked me to get back in touch with her and to send her all of the discovery material. I was able to send her what could be sent as attachments in an email. I tasked our IT person with sending her the videos, specifically the...
Well, now she just broke a law. Well, you know what I mean? Their laws, right? The laws they go by, like ethics or whatever, you know what I'm saying?
It's in an email. I tasked our IT person with sending her the videos, specifically...
I don't know if you guys know how hard it is to bite your tongue, literally the way this guy is right now. It is so hard for him not to say what's on his mind, right? So I'm going to try to do my best. So yeah, anyways, I'm just going to say a couple things, though. It's Veterans Day. My dad was a veteran of the Vietnam War. He was in the war, you know what I mean, with his brothers and stuff. And anyways, so that is what it is. But anyway, Nagel, so if you're going to hear this at some point, I'm sure, when you get out, you know, hopefully sooner than later. Maybe you hear the audio of this when you're in jail or something. I don't know. But you said a couple things, and I just want to talk to you like, you know, like if I knew you or something. And mainly right? It's because of some shit the judge asserted, right? And I just want this to be perfectly clear. Judge, everybody listening, the world, I am giving legal advice to somebody who's about to be in an unlawful trial of his not wanting to happen, right? And his willingness to sign for years in prison for this not to happen, when this judge is the one who denied it and is pushing toward this trial that should never happen. I am going to give him legal advice and situational advice and some, you know, command prompt triggers and some information, some, you know, with my training and experience from my unlawful hearings in front of unlawful piece of shit judges. And I'm going to do it all while cussing and disparaging the shit out of these public officials who are conspiring against him, okay? Disparaging, defaming. I am going to do every verbal thing I can to make these people look as shitty as they actually are. Now, let's all remember this in the context in which it is. They are all conspiring against him. They are all in a conspiracy against him. They are committing a crime. And I'm speaking on that, right? On top of that, I think in court, I can literally prove that two of them, the judge and his attorney, are actually closer to pieces of shit than they are to being human beings. I mean that scientifically. I think I can actually prove that if there was a bar that was like 100%, you know, human, 0% was piece of shit, I think I could get the people's belief to be below 50%, right? Closer to being a pile of shit or a piece of shit than they are to being actually, you know, a collective, you know, group of cells that is a human being that thinks and acts like a person, right? I think I can actually do that. And with that thought in mind, then none of this is defaming, because it's not meant to defame, right? If you're a piece of shit and somebody calls you a piece of shit publicly, that's okay, right? But if you are a stand-up, you know what I mean, 100% honest, hardworking person, and somebody calls you a piece of shit publicly, and other people start calling you a piece of shit, then that's illegal.
Look,
It was just as easy to prove that McDonald's double cheeseburgers, the cheese was closer in molecular structure to plastic than it was to actual food. All they had to do was just let it sit on the table until it started to fucking rot, and then take a picture whenever the flies wouldn't go anywhere near it to eat it, right? And that's simply because flies eat maggots that grow off food, right? And decomposing things, right? Plastic doesn't decompose, so the fact that there's no flies means that there was no food to eat, means that it's closer in molecular structure to a piece of plastic than it is to food. I think I can do the same thing with the judge and this lawyer and with a piece of shit, and as opposed to a human being with a heart and a mind and, you know, and red blood in their cells. You know what I'm saying? I believe I can actually do that. So again, challenge accepted or whatever, challenge, you know, brought or whatever. So you can't say it's defaming because I'm not trying to defame them, right? I can actually, I think, bring this to court and sway people's opinion toward a piece of poop. Oh, I want to make this racist, right? And it's not because of the color black. It's not because she's black and the judge wears a black robe. In fact, it's going to be the white poop, right? I'm talking about the poop that is months old, right? And it's like white and powdery, right? I can prove that they're closer to white powdery poop than they are to an actual person, right? So, bam, now it's racist. It's racist to the poop, not to the people. Alleged people. So, again, I just want y'all to know, legal advice is about to happen. And the stuff that I say that sounds like defaming and bad talk and whatever you want to call it, that's what it is, right? I am trying, on top of giving legal advice to help this man win at his unlawful trial, I am also I'm doing two things at once, simultaneously trying to make these pieces of shit appear to be the actual human pieces of shit that they are, simultaneously while helping this young man. All right, so check it out, my Noggle. Here's what I got. You said that you're like, oh, I don't really know the right words to say and blah, blah, blah. I just want to tell you, your demeanor, there's a couple of things I'm going to criticize, but the way you speak, it sounds very intelligent, right? And like the way you kind of run things together, but you end them really well. And like it sounds like you're kind of stuttering, but it's not. It's you almost reserve some sort of intelligence just by the pattern of your speaking, right? And it's kind of like the way you do it like this, you know what I mean? And then you kind of end it. But my suggestion would be, don't change that. If that's you, or however you acted today, right? Because I know we always act a little different in court and try to speak differently and respectfully, right? Because it's really hard as fuck to be respectful, you know what I mean? And if you're anything like me, you cuss every 5 minutes, right? But the way okay, you're not like me, right? I push my words out really fast and I kind of have like this whiny tone to it, right? But you sound very respectful, right? And you almost end things like this, you know what I mean? You try to get the last little part in there, but you say the last couple words nice and articulately, right? But you could be like saying like, and then go.
I don't mind me crawling through a hole, and at the same time, pretty much the same sentence says that I was driving onto the property. Pretty much
Into the hole, really articulate, and you're like, pretty much he was driving up to the property, right? Because those other words don't really matter, you know what I mean? And the fact that it's almost a lazily kind of stringing them together, because you don't sound drunk and you don't sound stupid, right? And you don't sound like you're breaking your speech, right? It sounds like you're too lazy to fully articulate those words because they really don't matter, because you're getting to the last three or four words that do mean something, you know what I'm saying? It's something intelligent people do, right? Or for me, example, like people say this or whatever, but I say or whatever a lot because those other words don't matter to me, you know what I mean? The thing you did at the last part of this is really just nails the intelligence sound, right? You almost whispered it said it in an upward inflection in a deeper tone and trailed off, right?
saying I was trespassing on the property, I guess burglarizing the property or whatever.
I guess burglarizing the property or whatever, right? The way you did that was fucking great, right? But again, if you're gonna do that, it's gotta be something that is with that burglarizing the property or whatever. Don't do it like, and then this bitch said some shit about me, right? Or don't make sure it's not something that is an underhanded jab at somebody, right? Because the sound of it is underhanded, but if the substance of it is something like, you know, just burglarizing or whatever, right? But if the substance was, and she really had balls under her pants or whatever, you know what I mean? If it was something like, if it's a shot at somebody and it sounds like that, it's going to sound really bad. You're going to sound like a disrespectful fucking, you know what I'm saying, two-time and two-faced fucking lying shithead, right? But if it's something that's not substantive, right, it just makes you sound intelligent. Okay, last thing I'm going to say on it. I really do respect what attorneys do for a living, except this stupid bitch right here. You know what I'm saying?
It says that I was driving onto the property, pretty much saying I was trespassing onto the property, I guess burglarizing the property or whatever. And I have yet to see that footage.
Okay.
All right, that should have been from the beginning, to be honest with you.
For example, you said crawling into a hole, and then he slurred the words together, but then the last three, onto the property, were very articulate, right? Keep doing that, man. If that's your normal demeanor and your normal pentameters, you know, your normal swag with the way you speak, that's legit, dude. It comes off as intelligent, and it makes people struggle for the words that you strung together, but at the same time, the last three ring out solidly. The only thing I would emphasize or say about that is the volume of your voice. End the sentence or your thought as loudly or louder than you started it. See, you trail off. Your clarity as far as your articulation in the last three words gets better, but the volume goes down, right? It either needs to stay the same or go up, right? So, like in music, it's called a resolve, right? So if you start off on the same note and there's a bunch of shit in between and you end on the same note, right, it resolves itself, right? And so your sentences do the same thing. It's like, yeah, hi, my name's Nagel, and but then I smacked a bitch. You know what I mean? Okay, that's an exaggeration of what you sound like, right? You actually have a good, smart ass lawyer kind of sound, right? And your demeanor wasn't bad either, right? I really, really liked the way you didn't fucking look at her, and then whenever it came time for her to talk, you stood away from her and were super animated about, you know, putting your head down and making faces or whatever. I say do that, right? Because what she did, her demeanor staring at you is what guilty people do, right? They're just frozen there, right? They have no, like, this is your life. You know, you should be animated, right? The only thing I would say is, you know how, like, sometimes, well, I do it all the time. When somebody, like, tells a blatant lie, you just laugh, you smile and, like, throw your hands up. You know what I mean? What I would say is keep being animated, but don't ever crack a smile. Don't ever try to, you know what I mean? Don't ever let it become a smile. You can go, you can make noises and stuff like that, but don't ever go like, God damn it, you know, with a smile on your face, right? Because even though it's in an expression of what the fuck, you know, and you're super, super unhappy about it, but that smile is what the judges and the jury will remember, right? They're gonna confuse it for being happy, right? And the lawyers are gonna eat that shit up. They're gonna be like, you saw him over there smiling the whole time we were talking about some serious stuff, you know what I mean? When really you were in disbelief, you know, and you have no other emotion to put forth except a smile, because all the other ones are, you know what I'm saying? Anyways, you get what I'm saying, right? And then other than that, dude, I think it would be cool to write something in Sharpie on the top of your head, like, she's a lying bitch, and then, like, point it at the camera right whenever it's her turn to talk, right? I mean, because you're pretty much taller than everybody in there, so nobody's really going to see it, you know what I mean? And then also, too, another thing I would do just to make the judge feel like a piece of shit and rub it in is ask him if you're going to get a pretrial release, and then whenever he denies it and says that you're too crazy of a criminal or whatever, then tell him and ask him if there's any special way you can specially get somebody to bring you some nice clothes for your day in trial, because everybody else is going to look nice except you. And even though it might be your last day as a free man, that you just want to look nice just in case your mom or your girlfriend or your, you know, somebody, your significant other wants to see it. And plus, and you can even tell him, say, hey, look, judge, it doesn't even have to be my clothes, you know, just give me one of those black things that you put over your clothes, you know, at least you don't have to come to work and ruin the way you look, you know, at least you get to cover it up, and you know what I mean? And that's what I want to do. I want to cover up the fact that I'm a criminal that you're about to convict, right? So I just want to at least look the part. So can you, you know, show me some compassion here? You know, put it in his plate, you know what I mean? Make him be a tyrant piece of shit that he is, you know what I'm saying? Because look, dude, let me be perfectly honest with you, man. And I hate when people say that, but you know this is true, right? That judge has never been fucking humiliated in his life. He's never had a CO that's fucking 5'2" with a little fucking squeaky voice say, "All right, boys, nuts to butts," and make grown ass men who are butt ass naked fucking stand so close to each other that their nuts are literally touching the dude in front of them's butts in freezing cold, right? And fucking stare at them, right? He's never had to walk around the corner and lift up his balls and bend over so somebody can look at his butthole just so he can put his clothes back on and walk around the corner, right? He's never had that happen. He doesn't know how that feels, and he also doesn't know how it feels to get used to that, right? He doesn't understand these things, dude. He hasn't lived in an adult world and had to make decisions and deal and internalize things that we have. You know what I'm saying? Like, he doesn't know what it's like to be fed 3 meals a day, or to wake up in a fucking metal box that's painted blue and don't know if you're looking up or down, dude. And like, he doesn't know he doesn't know what it's like to only have bleach to clean your floor with every single night and nothing to do. Anyways, he doesn't understand these things, dude. He doesn't understand what doing time is. What I'm trying to express about that is you and I do, right? And what we forget about is the way we look, because it doesn't matter. Other than our skin color, we have nothing else in there to group ourselves with somebody else, right? He has to look good as a judge. There's certain things he has to do, right? And he is just as willing as for his survival to do those things, right? So if you call him out on it in such a way to where, you know what I mean? It's going to make him look like a bad judge, even if he is being bad or not, right? He's going to do what he thinks is the right thing and what makes him look like a good judge, or you know what I mean? It's hard to explain, but the whole, you know what I mean, allowing you to look good thing, they should give you a pretrial release and allow you to be at home for a week or two before trial, especially if you're facing that much time, right? But again, these tyrannical is probably not going to let it happen, blah, 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 right? But so put it on him, dude. Make him feel like a shitbag, right? And then when he does, you know, anyways. And then, of course, however that turns out, it's a win for you, because either he does become a tyrannical piece of shit and he's the reason you look like a piece of shit for your court date, or he grants that opportunity and then you tell everybody in the jail that he did that specially for you, and then everybody that goes in front of him from now on is going to bring that up, how he treated you specially, right? I mean, it might not get you anywhere legally, but it'll make him look like an asshole, dude. And every fucking person that gets in front of him is going to call him out for it on the record, and he's going to look like a piece of shit and hopefully lose his job. I mean, that's the idea, right? But no, you sound good, dude. Keep on doing it, man. And another thing, here's another thing I would do too. Like at trial, when you're talking about the prosecutor, like you did it here, right? But just ignore them as a person. If you refer to them, don't say the prosecutor. Say this prosecutor. The prosecutor could be like, oh, you know, the criminal over there, right? But you say this criminal or this prosecutor right here. You know what I mean? It's specific enough to where you can reference her without talking directly to her, and it makes her sound like a fucking piece of lawn furniture or like a bookshelf or something, which is what you should refer to her as. She should be nothing other than an object taking up space. You know what I mean? Like, don't give her name or emotions or anything. Just say this prosecutor and then blah, blah, blah. Oh, and then if you really want to pepper it with some like police tactics or whatever, use the word refused, right? When if for inaction, like if something happened, right, and you didn't get all your disclosure, say the prosecutor refused to hand it over, right? They always make it seem like the action of her doing nothing, right, or ignoring you was a refusal to do the right thing, as opposed to her just doing nothing because she didn't have to, right? You know what I mean? Like, you don't have to go hold a girl's hand while she crosses the street, but if somebody says, I saw him and he saw that little girl and refused to hold her hand, you know what I mean? Then it's like you refused to do something you were supposed to do, right? When really you had no reason to hold that girl's hand. You might not even have saw her, right? But you can do this at any point you want to make her look bad, right? Say she refused to do something, right? Also, too, I wouldn't play stupid like law enforcement, right? But what I would do is I would constantly bring up the fact that you're in jail. Not that you're in jail, but that you have no sense of time or and your days and weeks run together because you're not living your normal life, right? And then what I would do to pepper that, right, is I would ask them a question you already know the answer to, like, well, when did that happen? Was that on Tuesday? Was that on Tuesday, right? Well, both of you guys were there, right? Judge, which is ask, make them answer the question to each other, because they all conspired against you, right? So like they're literally going to be able to answer each other's questions, right? If you ask her what day that phone call was, and then just ask the prosecutor, say, well, I mean, this prosecutor over here is the one who got the record, so can you ask her what day it was, right? And then when you know what I mean? And then the attorneys will just talk to each other. And when they do that, it looks so bad on them, right? When they answer each other's questions without going through the judge. And another thing, since I am pretty sure this prosecutor didn't have more than 15 minutes of conversation with you, and even if she did, it was just her telling you what the fuck she's not going to do for you, whatever, you know what I'm saying? And ignoring you and blah, blah, blah. And then you probably just saying something that was semi-rude, and then her freaking out and saying that you know what I mean, that your tone is too aggressive or whatever, and then probably ending the conversation or whatever, and blah, 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 right? I'm sure that's probably the way it is. But in response to that, she is in a position to where she has to make it look like she's doing everything she can to help you. So literally, I'm not saying lie, but I'm saying recall a conversation that you had that you wish you had, and things that she said that she should have said, right? And have her be the one in open court to explain that never happened, right? And then, you know what I mean? You can just be like, oh, well, maybe that's what I wanted to tell you or something. You know what I mean? You know what I mean? Make her constantly recall, or it's basically gaslight her in public. You know what I mean? You're going to have to play dirty like them. You don't have to lie, but you can definitely recall and not recall things. And if you bring something up that you thought you had said to her, it doesn't matter, because every conversation that she brought up is something that she thought she had conveyed to you. And this next couple of things I'm about to say isn't really advice so much as it is just knowledge. But you can have her as elbow counsel. You can have her as backup counsel, and you can ask all the questions, right? And as long as you don't cross any serious lines, they actually have to kind of help you through it, right? And you probably are the best one to ask the questions, because, and here's the other thing too, right? And I'm glad you brought up the transcripts, right? Because they're not going to give you anything, right? They're gonna schedule this trial and have it the day before, the day of trial. You're going to have no pieces of paper and no documentation of anything. These people are tyrannical. I've seen it happen. This is going to happen, right? But what you can do, right, in lieu of, before that happens, right, just hound them for the transcripts, right? And then a couple days, 3 days, whatever, whenever you get to have a conversation or mention it, just say that whenever this attorney is questioning any of the witnesses that she deposed or has seen the depositions to that I don't have the transcripts to, when she asks certain questions, she will be testifying. Instead of being my attorney, she will be a witness to the prosecution's case. Because if I don't have the knowledge in my head, right, of the questions that she asked, right, she could be asking a question or answering a question, or something could be happening that I don't know about, right? And she could be acting without my best interest in mind, and I wouldn't know any better, right? So at that point, when she's doing that, she's acting as a witness, right? So if I don't right now, before trial, get handed these transcripts so I can follow along with them and then properly advise her as if she's being lied to, or if she's becoming a witness for the prosecution. If that can't happen, then she will be testifying as a witness and have to impeach herself or remove herself, and you're going to have to call him. Before he cuts you off, say, look, man, it's not going to be because of something that I misunderstand and I'm not aware of what her questions or where she's going with her line of questioning. It's not going to be because of that, and that's simply because you didn't have me declared incompetent to stand trial. And since I have not been even questioned about my competency at trial, or professionally tested on it or whatever, and passed that test or failed that test, you also then have to assume that I do understand everything that's being said, right? And if for some reason a line of questioning or she makes an argument that is contrary to what's going on here, then she does become a witness for the state, because there is a whole transcript of knowledge that I don't have to reference to make sure that what is being argued is not a statement and a witness as a witness for the state. You know what I mean? And that would be, again, very bad for this trial and judge. And then really get personal with them, right? And tell them, say, if I can, I would like to speak freely, right? Because this is very important to me, and it may not seem like it to you, and because you do this every day, and you prosecuting, and now on the other side of the bench, but you deal every day with people's the turning point in their life, right? And this is mine right now. So I'm sorry if I'm being a little assertive right now, Judge, but I realize you can make any ruling you want, right? But here's the thing. I want you to know this on a personal level, that what you said that day, when I had to waive my rights, attorney-client privilege, I'm glad I did, and I'm glad I had this time to think about it, because I have been thinking about it, and I want the same thing that you want. I want this trial to go by without a hiccup. Right. And these things are going to arise throughout the trial, especially because you stuck me with an attorney who I can't stand and who doesn't have my best interest in mind. But again, I believe in this court process, and I want this trial to end without a hiccup, just like you do, Judge. 100% God's honest truth. I just want to be the verdict to be read not guilty, and you just want the verdict to be read guilty. Right. Or whatever. You don't even care what you just want it to go to verdict, right? Because you want to successfully get through a trial, right? Because you're a judge, right? You don't want, you know what I mean? I don't want to be the reason that you don't get through the trial and get to verdict. And I don't want my lawyer to be the reason. And I don't want my ignorance to be the cause of that, right? So, you know what I mean? I don't want to have to move for a mistrial and say that, right? Because when you say, I don't want this to be a mistrial, or you'd have to call a mistrial, he thinks that you don't know. He thinks that you aren't aware. If you move for a mistrial, he has to rule on it. If you make a motion, he has to rule on it, verbally or whatever, right? Tell your lawyer to do it, right? She doesn't do it. And here's another thing that you really have to know. You have what's called the right to be heard, right? If your lawyer isn't doing the right thing and you have talks with her and she's still not doing what you don't want her to do, like, you can stand up and say, Judge, like, I need to say this out loud, right? And if you've already had the talk with them that you don't want to say the word mistrial in front of the jury, that you want it to go, you know what I mean? He's going to let you speak, right? And again, and don't break that trust, you know what I mean? But tell him, say, look, like, I have the right to be heard. And he's going to try to cut you off, and the least you say, the better, right? But you just say, respectfully, Judge, I have the right to be heard, and this is very important, blah, blah, blah. And then, make your point or whatever. And anyways, you do have the right to be heard. And I don't know, man. I feel like if you go about this the right way, that this judge will just change his mind and do the right thing. But that's not going to happen, man. So I don't know. Take as much of this as you want. Leave as much as you want. I don't know. I'm just having fun fucking brainstorming. I love doing this, by the way. If anybody wants to just brainstorm with me about trial tactics or whatever and give me some, random list of things that are happening and blah, blah, blah in a certain scenario, I would love to go through every possibility about every defense or every possible way to even beat it without even using we would just, I don't know, whatever. And the last thing that judge wants to hear, this judge wants you convicted, and he wants to have a public trial. He wants to have all the shit, right? He wants to have you get up and get mad. He wants to have somebody storm out of there. He wants to have all the shit you see on TV, right? But you're going to shut all that down, right? Because you're not going to allow that to happen. But again, if you bring up the whole transcript thing and tell him, say, if I don't have these in front of me to be able to reference and go along with what they're saying, and I'm not on the same page as them, she will at some point, no doubtedly, be acting as a witness to the prosecution, and you will 100% have to call a mistrial, right? If he hears that and connects the dots that might happen just because he doesn't hand you some paperwork, he's going to give you all that paperwork, and he's also going to know something very, very important, and that is that you, even in silence, can end this case badly and make him look like a piece of shit, right? So it's going to force him to play by the rules, and it's going to make sure that whenever she does act as a witness, because she is the witness, because she's in conspiracy with them, right, that you're going to be able to come up with a question or a rebuttal, right, and you'll be able to tell her. And if she doesn't ask it or doesn't respond to it, right, then, again, in open court, the judge has to do the right thing, right? This is his time to shine, right? He has to prove his legitimacy, even though he's a piece of shit, lying faggot, you know what I mean, fake. But he has to prove his legitimacy, and he will rule correctly. He will either make her ask that question, and you will get your point across, you know what I mean, and clarify the record, you know what I mean, or he's going to fuck up and look like a big sack of dog shit. So, too, on specific subjects, I would write out a list of questions. Like, for example, the whole burglary thing, right? I mean, have her ask it like this. Be like, where do you come up with the idea that this was burglary, right? Because him simply trespassing or stepping onto a property or existing in a place cannot be the crime that is outlined in the statute of burglary, meaning when you enter a property or go into a building, you have the criminal intent to commit a crime, right? That is your intention for going in there. Your intention, the crime that you intend to commit when you go into this building cannot be the crime of stepping onto the property of that building, right? Because, again, stepping on it defeats itself, right? So the trespassing or him simply being there cannot be the crime, right? So how can you articulate that he was there to intentionally commit a crime, right? So, you know, and then they're going to say, well, he went in there to steal the copper or whatever the fuck it was, right? You know what I'm saying? And then she needs to specifically ask these questions. What about recycling copper is criminal? And they're going to say, well, it didn't belong to him. And then she's going to say, well, it didn't belong to anybody. You just said the school was abandoned for 5 years, period. And in fact, not only does it not belong to somebody, or at least that owner is unknown, but it has been actually neglected for 5 years. And on top of that, the thing that would tie it to a criminal act would be that if the copper was actually in use for a function of some sort, but it's not, because the building isn't being used and it's already been ravaged 100 million times. Another good sly one to mention under your breath before any actual proceedings. Just say, hey, look, man. And also, too, I'm going to ask the question, or it's going to be raised, that the fact that the building was abandoned, right? And I would just like to know, because I'm aware that you guys use your tools as a city, like, for example, your city ordinance to go and, take it upon yourself to cut somebody's trees and mow their grass, right? And then send them a bill for it. And whenever they don't pay that bill, then you put a lien on their house, right? So you have them by the balls. And I'm aware you use that as a tool. So I am just wondering what code enforcement would say about a building that's been dilapidated and abandoned for 5 years. How long would it take them before they used this tool, right? And if that's the case, what is it, 6 months, a year, 2 years, 3 years, right? Why did they leave this building for 5 years? And why should I think any differently than code ordinance about going in there and taking it upon myself to clean this place up? For example, all this copper they say I took, right, in full, all by myself, and did all the labor for it, right? All this copper, right? Every single bit of that copper would have been taken by a bum or vagrant at some point, right? So in doing this one thing that you say is a crime, allegedly, right, I may have stopped another 20 crimes, right, by taking it upon myself, right? And what should I build? You know what I mean? Just tell them that you're aware that they do that, right? Because they do that. That's what code enforcement does, bro. And say, oh, okay, my bad. Was that a little too harsh for you? That kind of sounded like I was attacking you guys and like, accusing you of something that would be, borderline or whatever. Well, take this route then. How about these 2 words? Hazardous danger, right? Like, you know what I mean? What if that was considered a safety hazard, right? How long would it be before one of those pieces of metal fell on somebody's head and killed a kid that was playing there with his, like, whatever? How long until... Here you go. Here's the city news. Boo. In today's news, fire truck finds 2 7-year-old kids, one badly injured and the other one fatally had a shard of metal fall on his head while playing in an abandoned school. The city didn't deem it a safety hazard. It had been like that for 5 years. We're not sure where the breakdown happened. It's going to be the better interview. Me having been, freed at my house for about a year and dressed in good clothes and say, yeah, you know what? I heard about that and I was almost facing litigation for it and the judge did the right thing and, you know what I mean? Deemed my work to be a, lawful use of my time or whatever and even compensated me. You know what I mean? This is a great city, or you in jail and saying, look, I told these motherfuckers, you know what I mean? I tried to tell them, right? They're stupid. What's going to be the better interview when that happens? And say, look, Judge, if you really want to get down to the nitty gritty, bro, I'll tell you right now in open court in front of everybody, I'm willing to play the game, dude. I'll play my role, right? You can even go all the way to decision, right? And then just declare, you know what I'm saying, that there was some kind of bias thing that the lawyer said and it should have been caught sooner, right? Make her look like the bad one, you know what I'm saying? Make it look like you're rooting out corruption from within, you know what I'm saying? Like, I'm down to play that. I'll play it any way you want to play it, Judge. But, I mean, anything short of me going home at the end of the trial, right? Whether it's not guilty or mistrial or, you know what I mean, the people just, rush in here and carry me out on a chariot. Either way, you know what I mean? That's the only way I'm willing to play the game, right? And both of these shitbags, the judge and this attorney's buttholes are going to pucker up whenever you say that because they're both prosecutors and they're both dirty and they both have had their hand in this and probably have directed this action to happen and what I just outlined probably 20 or 30 times to fucking unsuspecting people, right? And the fact that you just even mentioned that you know about it and that you can inquire about the lengths of time because literally it's like getting your oil changed. It's like 2,000 miles or 2 months or whatever, right? They literally say if there's cobwebs, if there's any sign that a vehicle hasn't moved, they will fucking code enforcement or tow it. If they see a cobweb on your fucking tire is enough. You know what I mean? So a 5-year-old dilapidated building is going to be pretty convincing, right? They're not even going to let that one hit a jury's ears. You know what I'm saying? So, again, what is criminal about repurposing and recycling some metal that belongs to no one or has no apparent owner and is not being used for anything, right? How can you not draw the line between a pile of trash that is worth a little something and that copper? You know what I mean? How can you not see the parallels here, right? Or whatever, something like that. You know what I mean? And it's not... I don't think she's even capable of a tactic like that, right? Which is why I think you have to write these out. And, anyways, again, this is all, I'm just saying random shit, bro, because I really like trial tactics is like kind of my secret thing that I keep in my head, which I'm just, again, I mean... I'm not going to show you any of this, right? People very smarter than me and a little bit older than me and that live in your state, right, that probably have your best interest in mind are going to be the ones that decide how much of this you hear, if any, right? I'm sure some of my words are going to find you, right? And these probably might not be the right ones. You know what I mean? I'm just spitballing here, bro. And you're going to have plenty of opportunity to talk to the judge before the trial, because they're going to have this whole thing where they instruct you about the jury, and he's going to have this whole fucking thing where he lies to you about, oh, you cannot mention the word mistrial to the jury, right? That you can't tell them that that's an option, even though it is, right? So there's going to be plenty of private time for you guys to talk, dude. And that's when I would slip it in there that, hey, judge, about the transcripts, right? If I don't get these transcripts, basically every word that she says is a potential, as a potential for her to be an actual witness, right? A complaining witness or a actual witness to this as a prosecution, sees it to the prosecution instead of my lawyer, right? And that's all kinds of violations of due process and rights and the court process and process of law and and you not being able to recognize that would be just like career suicide. You use that, say career, and say, look, judge, I don't want any of this to happen. I don't want a mistrial to happen because that, my lawyer was improperly, saying things that I wasn't aware of that made her become a witness for the prosecution and, forcing you to declare a mistrial. I don't want that to be the outcome of this either. Right. So just say, I want the same thing to happen that you want to happen, judge. I want this trial to conclude and go to a verdict. Right. You just want the verdict to be guilty, and I want the verdict to be not guilty, right? So I think we can both assume or both say that all these housekeeping matters are going to be, upheld, right? For example, like me getting the transcripts between now and when this trial starts so I can follow along. Also, too, my lawyer being directed that if I am to bring something up to her, that she properly, inquire about it to opposing counsel or the witness on the stand, right? Period. And also, too, we also needed to, we'll take care of that when it happens, but we also needed to discuss the legitimacy of, the prosecution repeating all the attorney-client privilege stuff that they heard the last time we were here, you know what I mean? But whenever it arises, we'll take care of it then. And then that way, whenever it does arise, or anything arises that you want at all, because they talked about the entire case that day, you can just object and ask the judge, is it relevant? Is she allowed to say that? I mean, because we said it that one day I had to waive my rights, you know what I mean? And you can always bring it back to that, because literally everything about this case happened that day. In fact, you never ever have to reference the day that you got arrested or the day that you went in there or the day that the only day I would reference is that today, you know what I mean? Ever. Also, too, I would probably mention that an actionable civil rights claim could arise from the conduct of that day, right? But you don't want that to happen either, because that's a different kind of litigation that you don't even want to get into, right? But you're not sure how to bring it up, right, if you have a question to ask him in open court, right? So you need to take care of the matter now and advise the attorney that she is a dumb whore. And if you really want to astound the people and the jury and whatever they're accusing you of, let's say it was 40 pounds of copper, right? Let's say that was what was, what the particular thing is, right? I would do this. I would have Blue Steel get on the phone and call a junkyard and ask them how much they would pay for 40 pounds of copper, right? And then get that estimate, right? And then give you that estimate and say, let's say it was, they're going to give you like $300, right? And then I would call a company that specifically removes junk and ask them how much they pay hourly and how much they would charge to remove that copper, right? And I would get that estimate, right? And so I'd have two estimates, one from the company who would provide the labor and then one from the shop who would be recycling the metal, right? And I would get both of those estimates, right? And both of them are, let's say it's $1,000, 500 and 500 or whatever. I know these are fake numbers, and then I would bring that up right after the lawyer gets done doing whatever the fuck she's going to do. I would just present that to her like on the day, in the moment, and say, okay, look, these are two estimates or whatever. Ask this question, right? Ask her if I would have billed this amount, would that be acceptable, right? And they're gonna be like, oh no, right? And then say, okay, well, the city or whoever owns that school, right, would have had to approve this through a city commission, and they would have had to. These are the numbers that are the going rate, right? Okay. I right now have a bill for half of that, and then hand it to him in court. Serve him with the bill for the labor for taking the exact metals that you're being charged with, right? Hand it to them in court, on the spot, on camera, right? Bill them right in front of the judge. Look, it's disclosure in the case. If you drew up that document and you have it in your hand, right, you would be committing a crime by not giving it to them, right? You literally have to, right? So he can't hold that against you. So he has to go by the legality of what just happened. Now, what's going to happen is he's going to delegitimize it and say, well, you said that it was already missing whenever you got there, right? So you made that argument that day, and he has no choice but to bring up today, or this day, right? Whenever he unlawfully made you waive your rights to attorney-client privilege, he's going to have to bring that up, right? Or one of them is the prosecution is going to have to bring that up, right? And then you can mention your rights being waived again unlawfully, but then you can also say, okay, fine, if that's the case, then then that's the case, right? Like you said it, right? You just said that stuff was all gone, just like I said, right? So yeah, okay. Well, so I will void out this bill, right? And then void the bill right there. And they have literally proved your case for you and called you innocent on the record. The case can't go any further than that. So either there's a huge conflict of interest and the judge is going to look like a dumbass making a big deal about it, or he's going to bring up the day that you unlawfully had to waive your rights to counsel or whatever when he tricked you, right? And then go along with the story that you said then, which is the truth, that all that shit was missing, right? Whenever you got there, it's going to come out of their mouth, right? And then you can just say, okay, well, you know what? I will void out the bill then. You don't owe me any money. You know what I mean? And then he has no choice. There's nothing he can do. And make a clear distinction between, or even stop it. Like say, objection, that's attorney-client privilege, right? And then he's going to say, no, remember you waived, I made you waive your right, or you waived your right. And then you say, oh, okay, but make this distinction. Say, I realize that. I know she has that information, but I didn't realize she was allowed to act on it in this trial. You know what I mean? Like, just because I have the information that you murdered somebody doesn't mean I have to call you a murderer at your trial for, being a bad mom or something. You know what I mean? And also, too, keep peppering the judge with questions about this day, right? Say, well, am I allowed to bring that up to the prosecutor? I mean, is this prosecutor allowed to use that information that she got when my lawyer was responding to my allegations about her whenever I waived my right to have attorney-client privilege, right? Is it allowed that she brings? I know I can bring it up, but since I waived the right, does that give her the right to use that information that she would not have been privy to otherwise had I not waived my right because I had to? Or you know what I mean? Like, constantly bring that up, that the information the attorneys are using against you is information that they got simply because your lawyer was a bad lawyer and that the judge had specifically allowed her and made you use your constitutional right as a fucking prop to fucking hold up her rebuttal against what you said. You know what I mean? Constantly use that, right? You're confused about the information that they gathered during this attorney-client privilege because you thought it was only information that they heard, right? Not what they can use against you, right? So anytime they say something that could be damning, like, and brought up the deposition or called the witness, say, ask the judge, is she allowed to do that because she heard it that day, right? Shit, you can even do that when they just say something you don't like. Just be like, objection, attorney-client privilege. You heard that on the day I waived my rights. And she'd be like, no, I didn't. I learned this 2 weeks ago. And you'd be like, oh, okay, well, I mean, I'm sorry. I withdraw my objection. That wasn't on the day that I had to waive my rights and you could hear everything about everything. Carry on. You know what I mean? Like, dude, I mean, really, dude, like, and again, do it though. Your demeanor is fine, bro. Like, your demeanor is good and you sound good. I would just say, increase the volume of your voice, but speak the same way. Like, you can speak loudly and you know what I'm saying? Without yelling. I can't, right? I'm constantly on 110%. My voice sounds whiny. Dude, I sound, judges hate me, dude. Like, dude, badly. But again, and see, like this look right here, you're giving right here. That's perfect, bro. And it needs to go to them. There's no need to mail it to them. That's other than a U.S. postal postmark on it. You're doing it in the most lawful place that there is to exchange documents to somebody right in front of a court judge. You know what I mean? Hand them that bill and tell them now they owe you, right? So as soon as she proves that your presence there wasn't the burglary, right? So there's no actual criminal charge, then hit them with the bill for the work that you legally did, because it's legal. If there's no criminal charge and she just defeated, I mean, again, there's no ruling, but if she just defeated the fact that there can't be a criminal charge and you hand them a bill in court, they now are on the hook to pay you, right? Now you have a huge conflict of interest, or at least the prosecution does. And if the judge doesn't drop it right there, he's going to try to find some way to delegitimize it. But trust me, that will drop the hammer.